Welcome to Piano Inspires podcast, celebrating pianists, teachers, and innovators as they share their inspiring stories about the transformative power of music.
Hello, I'm Pamela Pike, and thank you for joining me today for this podcast. And joining us is Ingrid Clarfield. Ingrid, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, I'm honored to have been invited.
Well, let me introduce you to our audience. So Ingrid Jacobson Clarfield is nationally recognized as a teacher, clinician, pianist, and she is author and professor of piano and head of the piano division at Westminster Choir College of Rider University in Princeton, New Jersey. She has given lecture recitals, workshops, and master classes in more than 150 cities in 40 states across North America, including many presentations at state and national conferences of the Music Teachers National Association. She has presented numerous master classes and pedagogy sessions at the National Conference on Keyboard Pedagogy, which is where we are today, the TCU Van Cliburn Institute, the National Piano Teachers Institute, the Music Teachers Association of California, World Piano Pedagogy Conference, and the Calgary Arts Summer School in Alberta, Canada. She has directed Westminster Choir College's Piano Week for high school students since 1984. We will definitely want to hear more about that. Professor Clarfield's life is the subject of a documentary, Take a Bow, released in 2011. It tells her inspirational life story depicting her tenacious fight back to teaching after a devastating stroke that occurred in 2007. She has also received recognition from her peers in music education with so many awards, including the MTNA Foundation Fellow, many Teacher of the Year awards, also received the Lifetime Achievement Award from NCKP in 2015, and she is the first ever recipient of the Jacobs Music Steinway Al C. Rinaldi Lifetime Achievement Award. She's also authored numerous collections for Alfred Publishing Company, and these include Keys to Stylistic Mastery, Keys to Artistic Performance, which she co-authored with Dennis Alexander, and Classics for the Developing Pianist, Core Repertoire for Studying and Performance, and those included some study guides, which were co-authored with Phyllis Lehrer. So Ingrid, I could go on, but we just want to get to talking with you and learning more about your life. So,
But can I interrupt for one second before you start? I must correct my bio with one thing because I am now professor of piano emerita. After 41 years, I am no longer teaching at Westminster, but I do not call it retiring. I have announced my redirection.
Redirection.
Right? Retiring's for old people. Sorry, that's not going to be me. So I call it, in fact, my friends threw me a redirection party.
Wonderful.
Because they know I would be upset if they called it retirement.
And we know you too. You will not stop. You will still remain active. You will just have more time to do some of these other wonderful
that
activities.
I love to do. I've had a wonderful private studio that I've enjoyed. I want to write more.
Yeah.
Do more gigs. Anybody out there want to hire me? I'd love to travel.
As you can see, Ingrid is such a wonderful person, and you're so giving yourself. So, we're starting a lot of these interviews learning about your background, your childhood, but I have to say, I love watching master classes where you work with children, pre-college students. And I have to imagine that some of this must be informed by your own childhood teachers.
Interesting.
Is that correct or not?
No.
Oh.
But that's lovely of you to compliment my master class. If I really had, and I love it. There's nothing more I love. And what's interesting is since I have a private studio of gifted students, everybody thinks that's what I want to work with. But when I go to states, I tell them, no, give me some average, I don't like that word, typical students, all ages, all levels. So my idea of a great master class is give me a sonatina. Love to teach Dennis Alexander's pieces or Catherine, any of the wonderful pedagogical composers. But no, not by my first teacher was my uncle from Poland, who was an accordion player and a piano player.
Okay.
Piano player, God, that sounds bad. Pianist. Anyway, and then when he died, my parents made me audition at Juilliard. I was accepted and refused to go. You might find that hard to believe. I was a stubborn child. Anyway, and then they found me a wonderful teacher who was part of a 2-piano team, Michael Field and Vera Appleton. And he was a tough teacher. He was a good teacher, though, until I had won a concerto competition, came home, and in the summer, after the summer, and he had sold his second piano, and he built a gourmet kitchen, and he decided to start teaching cooking. So my parents were paying a lot of money for lessons, and I wanted to work on the concerto to play with orchestra, and he was whipping up a souffle. And my parents said at that time, for what they were paying, it was not that. So then they forced me to go to Juilliard. And I had the teacher who most influenced me on how not to teach.
Yes.
I was told every week I was the worst student at Juilliard, and he had absolutely no idea how I was even accepted. And then the week before my jury, he would say, "You're really very talented. You're going to do well." This does not motivate somebody. So I never mentioned his name. But anyway, I was lucky enough to go to Oberlin, where I was in John Perry's very first class, which I remind him all the time. We're good friends. He lives like 10 minutes away now. So, and that's who really shaped my education,
Yes.
me as a musician. So, and if you've seen John do a master class, he's brilliant. Can be tough, but it's always fun. So no, I did not have fabulous training, but that I was lucky enough to get in that first class of John Perry's. He was 29.
Wow.
A few years ago.
So Ingrid, did you still love the piano? What helped you persist through all of that?
That's very interesting. Oh, that's a toughie. I loved making music. Never loved practicing. Practiced all my scales and arpeggios with magazines in front of me because nobody ever told me I had to do different dynamics in each hand or different articulation. So in one of my books, Bergmüller, Czerny, Hannon, my etude book, it's always about musicality.
Yes.
Because you can't read a magazine if you're using my books. You have to, there's a lot of stuff going on. I started with comic books, and I think I graduated to Romance magazine while doing my scales for however long. So I don't remember what the question was, but...
Well, I just wondered why you persisted. So you loved making music, you said.
Yeah, and I think I loved the applause.
Uh-huh.
And, I was just, my future was always there. I never pondered what I was going to do like other people. There was just, I was going to go to music. Got into Oberlin, and so I was happy.
So then, John Perry was so formative for you. What can you just speak about that a little bit for us?
That would take a half an hour,
Okay.
in fact. But this year, what was wonderful, I was able to do a John Perry legacy event. It was a Spiriocast event that Steinway sponsored, where it featured him talking about his influences in his childhood, which was really poignant. I talked about how he influenced me in my teaching. Like I said, that was another 20 minutes. And then one of my students talked about how I influenced, and you saw the whole legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I gave a master class. Oh, he gave a master class to my student. I gave a master class to the other person's student, and then I ended up doing a master class with one of John's students. So I'll be doing that again at the state conference. So
Wonderful.
it's just it's just the passion for music. He's tough as can be, but the most important thing is his belief in me. They maybe accepted 50 pianists. Okay, the new teacher does not get the stars. I was at the bottom of the class. That's what he got. You do not get the new one. So, but that commitment, and MTNA conference, anywhere I go, he will always come and support, what I'm doing. And I just was happy. He just did his academy in the Princeton area because he lives there. So I did a lecture for him and a master class. So anyway.
Well, so talk to us about then your path into the academy, into Princeton, your maybe your early years teaching
At Westminster.
At Westminster, yeah, in Princeton, New Jersey.
Very interesting. So I'll be totally honest, which you're supposed to be. I had a student who we'd gone to some national competition the year before, or 2 years before she had won. And then when they won, they suddenly say, "Thank you so much, we're going to Juilliard now," as a kid. This is, when you live close to New York,
Yes.
you sometimes, that's what happens. I was devastated, okay? And thought, oh my God, what did I do wrong? Well, then went back the next year, and with the Juilliard teacher, she didn't place, nothing happened, and people came up and said, "What happened to XYZ's," whatever her name, teaching. Anyway, I was devastated. I was also going through a divorce, and I got a phone call from Phyllis Lair, who had judged many of my students and things. I didn't know her at all, but you know when you judge things, you go, "Oh, I got to find out who the teacher was." Anyway, so I thought, hadn't practiced in months. I was devastated by this student leaving me, going through a divorce, and they asked me to come interview. No resume, I had nothing. I mean, I was up all night trying to put together something. I mean, we're going back 42 years now. I remember, and I interviewed with all these hotshot young kids, coming off the competition circuit, and I came in playing the Chopin B major, Opus 62, Nocturne. Not the harder, the easier, no, 32, 34, oh, well. Anyway, and that's how I ended up there. I got the job because you had to do a teaching audition.
Yes.
So these kids could rip through all the Chopin etudes, but then they had to,
The teaching.
teach didn't happen. So I found that's what took me over the top, and I guess they saw my passion, and there I was really allowed to develop as a teacher, and like wonderful guidance from Phyllis, who's one of my best friends in the world, and now we wrote these repertoire and study guides together.
But don't you think that's so important at the early stages in someone's career, that you have mentors, but also people that nurture you and let you find your own path, and give you the space to do that?
No, and that's a wonderful word, because I'm trying to do that now. The young man you met out there,
Yes.
who will discuss why he played my left hand for my session, and there's several other teachers here now at the Francis Clark, the new school, who are dear friends and that were students of mine in pedagogy classes and things like that. And you're just so proud when they're out there, they're up there doing it. I mean, one of the students, Laura Moriello, is head of the wellness committee. I just still remember her as a shy 15-year-old camper, debating whether to go into music, because somebody told don't major in piano, and here she is, a star at this conference. And then I was thrilled this year at MTNA, she was the presider, for mine. So you feel so good when they're out there, but I try and nurture.
Well, and you did have a huge part in that. In just Laura, that's just one example in her development, and
it's so exciting. Today I had a young man who lives right in this area. He's a conductor and teaches at Concordia. He was in piano camp in 1986, and he was in my audience today. And after he said, "I use all the same ideas in conducting in what you taught me as a pianist."
So tell me a little bit about the piano camp, because it's a big commitment in the summers when most of us relish having time off. What propelled you to keep it going to start it and then keep it going for so long?
Well, they asked me to start it because somebody else had a piano camp there, and then it just kept getting worse and worse, and they had no numbers, and they figured I could revive it as a young teacher. And said, sure. I had no idea what I was doing. And I'm still good friends with the former teachers that was 36 years ago. I mean, literally, I threw a bunch of duet books in the trunk of my car. We had no schedule, nothing. We'd scream things out. But eventually it developed 2 weeks a year. In the summer, we'd have 24 kids, and I'm so sorry. It stopped, and it didn't stop till COVID. And then we couldn't revive it because my wonderful school in Princeton, Westminster, was bought up by Rider University. Facilities weren't there. The momentum wasn't there anymore. And I hope it will come back under the leadership of the person who was a camper, Todd Simmons, who was my co-director for many years and is one of my best friends and great teacher. And there were several campers here. This was what's so exciting, coming to a conference like this. Hi, Mrs. Clarfield. I was in piano camp in 1994. Of course, I have no idea of anybody's names. I said, give me a hint. Tell me what you played. I will not know your name, but I'll remember what you played.
I'd believe that. But what is it about the camp experience? Is it the immersion? You're together, you're making music with other people who love it?
It was the immersion. And nobody's asked me about piano camp in so many years, and it's so wonderful because I ran into quite a few campers here, and they were talking about it. I had dinner last night with another young lady from the Chicago area who's a piano teacher. I'll just say it briefly because I also did piano camp in Calgary. So she first met me in Calgary, then came to Westminster and did undergraduate and graduate work with me. And she was talking about being in camp with Laura. Anyway, so it's the immersion, and it was my philosophy. On Monday, every kid had to walk out on stage, be videotaped playing a solo. It didn't matter, and it could range from a Diabelli sonatina to a Prokofiev sonata. There was no audition, okay? Anybody could show up, and
that's wonderful.
That's because that was so important to me, and really amazing, because by the end of the week, everybody performed a recital, not only a solo, but an ensemble piece.
Yes.
That they got Monday night, and it had to be prepared by Friday. And the transformation, because it was all about learning the stage poise, the etiquette. Was it perfect? No. Were there lots of cuts in repertoire? I'll never forget somebody who played the first movement of the Pathetique, and a dear friend of mine who studied with Claudio Orell said, I don't remember that edition. I said, it's a lot of cut and paste. You heard an A, a little a B, and a coda that we made up. But anyway, but it was that. It didn't matter. The idea was you got out on stage, you performed, and the duets. At those early years, there was no worries about safety. The kids were practicing at 1, 2 in the morning.
Right.
And parents were calling it saying, I can't reach my child. There wasn't texting back then. Anyway, so it was the immersion. That's a wonderful choice of words. That's why you're an editor.
It sounds like it was so empowering for those students, too, because they made music and they experienced that music, and then they communicated that joy or whatever the emotion of the music was, I guess, on stage.
It was, and it seriously changed lives. They said people went into music, became teachers, and themselves, and many came back as teachers at piano camp. We had whole, reunion type of thing. That was their dream, to come back.
When I was sort of first coming on the scene, if you will, when I was a young professional, you were a big star in our field. You really were.
I like her.
And you still are. But, I attended so many of your sessions, and, it was just always a pleasure to be able to speak with you. You were always so kind to young professionals. But then it seemed like at the peak of your career, you had this devastating stroke, and I don't know how much you want to talk about it.
I can do it. It's been 16 years.
But it could have been devastating.
Could have
and
been.
The point is, here you again, you demonstrate your resilience and your persistence. So maybe talk through the recovery.
No. Well, what's interesting is that the day before, I was on stage doing a session with George Litterst on the disc clavier, and I came home that night, woke up 4 a.m, had a stroke. They don't know why. But as I tell people, I'm here, I'm alive and well. I don't mean to minimize it, but I think for me, I was determined to go on. I did not know how. I was going to, and a grad student who was helping me with stuff, I said, cancel everything. I mean, I was in a wheelchair drooling on drugs. Very attractive. Anyway, and then canceled everything because didn't know how I was going to do anything, okay? And then I get it was an email from Sigrid Luther. Do you know Sigrid?
No, I don't.
Okay, wonderful teacher in Chattanooga, Tennessee, saying, we're so excited to sponsor your Ingrid Clarfield Pedagogy workshop. We had got a grant from MTNA. And I really don't remember if it's a phone call or an email, but probably an email. It's like, oh my God, we forgot somebody. Okay. And so then I said, well, there's a slight problem. I had a stroke. And she was all embarrassed. And the loveliest woman. Anyway, no, it was an email because I needed time to think. And I said, wonder what it would be like if I said I'll come if she plays my left hand, because I knew she was a good pianist. But I first checked with Gary Engel, good friend. I said, how crazy would it be to say I'll come to a conference and I'll play with one hand. Do I charge half price? Anyway, she agreed, and I had no idea what I was doing. Okay. And because she was so great and it went so well, that was how I came back.
Mm-hmm.
She subsequently, probably half a dozen times, has been my left-handed MTNA conferences.
Okay.
And because it worked, I could continue doing. I did not want to become right-hand pianist. Of course, there's 8,000 pieces for left hand alone and 4 for right hand. But several people, like Dennis Alexander, wrote beautiful pieces for me. I wanted to do things my way, which was still me, but with somebody else. And I've had over 40 different people play my left hand in 16 years. So that was how I chose to go on. But I am convinced that it's because of her and that it went so well that I thought, I can do this.
But it demonstrates a flexibility in your thinking, first of all, that you were willing to try something different, but still be authentic to who you are.
You're really good with words. Authentic, that was it. Because for me, that was important. I felt like what I do with pedagogy is important, and it's a little different, my style, to say the least. And I wanted to still be me. And I've been so lucky, and like today, like the young man you met here, he was in my pedagogy class. He was a student of Phyllis Lair, and the fact that this is his first time to present like at a big conference to do this, and I was really proud of him. And there were certainly plenty of other people who worked with me, and but I thought, no, he's helped me, and so.
Yeah, and you still have so much to contribute, so there was no reason to stop. You just have to find the alternate path forward.
And find good left hands wherever I go. So like I was just invited to do something in another state, and I said, first, we have to research.
We need a good left hand.
Yeah, good left hand. And doesn't mean I don't need a star solo pianist.
Right.
In fact, those aren't always as good because they have to really blend with me. And like one of my lectures on rubato, it's called Teaching Rubato, Bend It But Don't Break It. If I've got somebody who thinks they're in charge,
No.
So I need somebody flexible who'll work with me and somebody who prepare. I send the music out a month in advance.
So then do you have much practice time, rehearsal time?
So typically people get at least a month in advance the music, and I go in a day ahead of time. And for a 1-hour lecture, with some people I can get through it in 2 hours, others it takes 4 hours. So I plan a day, so it really depends, and because it's very people that do what I suggest, it works very well. I say, practice sitting on the left side of the bench, okay? Have somebody else try it, because the whole angle is different.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And then I tell them where it's okay to use 2 hands. It's okay if that's more comfortable, but not when it comes to pianistic choreography. If I want to see a nice lift in the left hand going to a low bass note, it's not going to work if you're not doing it correctly. So yeah, I've gotten it down now after 16 years.
Yeah. Artistry is so important to you, and it is. It's a hallmark of your teaching, of your students.
Nice.
Is it about listening? It's about gesture. You've spoken about gesture.
It goes
a little
together,
bit.
the sound and the gestures. And like one of my favorite lectures is called What You See Is What You Hear, because that's part of it visually. And I loved watching the concert last night with Sarah Davis.
I know. It was amazing.
Buchner, I hope I say her name right. And just to watch how she took a bass note, and it was all part of it. It's part of the whole thing. And it's not for show. And that's the thing I'm always stressing. It's about the music and being stylistically correct. So my kids learn that from an early age.
Yes. And I think so many teachers wait to teach that, or
Oh, right.
perhaps
They
know how to teach
They
it.
don't know how, and they don't know when. It's the first lesson.
I agree with you.
It's hot cross buns. Is this.
Yes.
Not, well, it takes time, but that's where the piece starts with your head down. My youngest, I don't have many young ones, but my 7-year-old knows, we start, this is it, the performance starts here.
Yeah, and then that's connected with the sound that they're creating as well, obviously.
It's all about the sound, yeah. Many lectures, I perform hot cross buns with tasteful rubato and gestures at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wonderful. So you've mentioned that you are now a professor emerita. You are, in this next phase. What are your goals for the next few, and it may be
to
too
not drive
soon.
my husband crazy. I hope he gets to hear that. Right after my session, I wanted to call him and tell him how it went, but then I had to rest my voice for this, so I texted him, "Resting now, everything went great." And he texts back, "Why don't you rest your voice at home?" So I want to continue doing what I'm doing, which is really nurturing special talented kids. And I have the luxury of doing that. And while I love working when I go out in the world with all level of kids, finding, the right students. I'm lucky when somebody moves to the area, they find me. I'll do more of that. I'd like to write some more books.
Mm-hmm.
Have some projects in mind that I can't reveal
That's okay.
yet.
That's okay.
I think my greatest goal would be to learn how to relax and not do anything. Doesn't sound very good.
But yet you've sustained this career for so long. So what do you do to rejuvenate or recharge?
Recharge, I redirect. See, I wish I could go back to playing tennis and golf, but that's not it. But up until COVID, I was still playing golf. We would go to Hilton Head. I learned how to play golf with one hand. I might go back to that. That would be fun. I think I need to find some other things really that I'm passionate about. But so far, I wake up in the morning, consider myself the luckiest person because I'm teaching and doing this or coming out to this conference and seeing so many people. So haven't really come up with something new. That's why I call it
Redirecting, yeah.
Everybody makes such fun because they couldn't remember. Is it rejuvenate? What are you doing? I am not retiring. Just don't announce that I retired.
Wonderful. So, what I have another sort of big question, and feel free to answer it or not. How do you think music is changing the world now, or impacting the world, or maybe how's music impacting your corner of the world?
My corner of the world is so select and elite to live in Princeton, New Jersey, 1 hour from New York and the New York Philharmonic, and 1 hour from Philly, the Philadelphia Orchestra. It's so rich there that I'm so spoiled, and the wealth of talent that is there at all. Every genre that I'm spoiled. And so I would like to reach out and to more people. And it was so interesting because somebody just asked me to do a Zoom event. I don't want to do any more Zoom events. Mm-hmm. I hate Zoom events. I'm so tired. The sound is so bad. You don't have I love to interact with an audience, which you know. And they said, but you could reach some people who would never, ever get to see you. They knew the magic word to say that, press that button. I mean, these are teachers out in areas that will never come to MTNA or NCKP. And I said, okay. So I would like to be able, that would interest me, to do that. But like I said, my view of the world is so royally spoiled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, but at least you recognize it. But I think you also recognize there are many people who need music and they need the resources that you have to offer. So the fact that, again, you're willing to be flexible and find a way to make that happen.
As long as I don't have to take any connecting flights, I'll go somewhere. That's it. Connecting flights, I won't go anywhere.
And who can blame you? So I have one final question for you that we're asking everyone. So how does piano inspire you? As you know, Piano Inspires is our website.
I saw that question, and now I have to reframe it in a way I understand.
How does piano inspire you?
See, I would say, how does making music inspire me? But I'm
That's
supposed to say,
fine. Well,
I'm supposed to say piano.
You can say making music.
It's for me, because I don't perform as a soloist anymore. Well, I never did. I was more of a two pianist. It's being able to convey the emotions of what the music is about. That's what it is. And teaching students, that is my greatest joy, is the communications of the emotions. And that's what it is. And seeing the joy on kids' faces when they know they've done that. Mm-hmm. That's for me. Recitals are big in my life. We do a lot of auditions, competitions. It's, like I said, very select. But it's the joy. Well, the joy afterwards. Receptions are very big in recitals. It's required. Anthony, make a note for yourself. When you're teaching studio, you have to have good reception. Anyway, my studio, this has nothing to do with the question, but I have to say it. A sheet goes out, like a template. They sign up for what they're going to bring. Dumplings, steamed dumplings, lo mein, vegetable lo mein, chicken lo mein. Okay, now I have greater ethnic diversity. So we had a Romanian dish and an Indian dish. Anyway, but it's the joy afterwards. These families will stay for hours. And I had kids this year. So you asked me what inspires me. Playing Rachmaninoff's Second Concerto, accompanying each other, a senior and a junior. Grieg Concerto, Saint-Saëns, major repertoire. But at the reception, these kids took the red solo stacking cups and were seeing how many they could stack up high. We took pictures of seeing them go from these artists to being regular kids, and that the music brought the joy there. And these families are all close. So that's what it is for me, is for my studio, but to be able to come here and have these teachers come up to me and say how my books or my presentation has impacted their life.
Yeah.
Brings me joy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's it in short, Ingrid. You inspire all of us, whether it's live in a master class or a workshop or a session, or it's through your books and your students. You inspire them. So
thank you.
Well, thank you. So again, thanks to Ingrid Clarfield for joining us. Thank you for joining us. And just many thanks.
Thank you. It's a privilege. Thank you so much.
The Francis Clark Center is a not-for-profit educational organization that serves the advancement of piano teaching, learning, and performing. Divisions include Piano Magazine, Piano Inspires Kids, Journal for Piano Research, National Conference on Keyboard Pedagogy, the New School for Music Study, Piano Education Press, International Online Teacher Education, and Piano Inspires Online Community Hub. Please visit us at pianoinspires.com to learn more about our impactful work and inspiring community.